It is 10:02 a.m., and I'd like to call to order the teleconference meeting of the Board of Directors of Friday, January 28th, 2022. Please note this meeting is being recorded. I didn't really prepare any words to say for this, my first meeting as chair, but I thank the board for putting me in this position, or maybe I should curse you, I'm not sure yet. But I hope that we, first of all, come out of this pandemic in the course of my 2 years. I think there are good things that we can accomplish in those 2 years, and I look forward to working with you to do so. Before we begin with the actual meeting, we have an oath of office to conduct. I'd like to welcome our newest director from Marin County to our board today. Holly Thier was appointed by the County of Marin, representing the Marin County Council of Mayors and Council Members, effective January the 1st, and is right now the mayor of the town of Tiburon. Welcome, Mayor Thier. Before I have you say a few words, I'll turn this back over to the secretary to complete your oath of office. Madam Secretary, go ahead, please.
Thank you, President Theriault. Mayor Thier, do you have the oath of office text before you?
I do.
Sure, great. When you're ready, please go ahead and begin reciting the oath, beginning with I, Holly Thier, do solemnly swear. So go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much, President Theriault and Amaret. I, Holly Thier, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter, and during such time as I hold the office of Director of the Golden Gate Bridge Highway and Transportation District.
Thank you, Director Thier. Thank you and welcome to the district, President Theriault. I'll turn the meeting back over to you.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Director Thier, this is your chance to introduce yourself in a more or less formal way to the board and to the public in your new capacity as a Director of the Golden Gate Bridge Highway and Transportation District Board. Would you like to say a few words?
Sure, I'll say a few words. Thank you, President Theriault, and congratulations on becoming president. I know you're going to do an amazing job. I just want to thank you, directors and staff. I want to let you know that I'm very excited and very humbled that I've been chosen to join this very esteemed board at really a very historic moment. Since I was 20 years old, while I was serving in San Francisco, and since the day I got elected to the Tiburon Town Council, I have wanted to represent Marin at the Golden Gate Bridge District. I want to thank all of the Marin mayors and council members, many of whom are listening to my swearing in right now, for your vote, for your faith, for your confidence in me, and for allowing me to represent you. And I'll be representing all of Marin's 11 cities and towns. I know I'm joining the board at a very historic moment. The district has many issues facing Marin today. In addition to serving as, the critical connections between San Francisco and Marin via bus and ferry service, we have some major Marin projects right now at the board, including the San Rafael Transit Center, the Larkspur Ferry Service Parking Expansion Study, the Sausalito Ferry Terminal Improvements Project, and the recently completed, and we hope it will be more, of the Corte Madera Marsh Restoration Project. And I'm very committed to working with my Marin colleagues and this board and staff on all of these important projects. The bridge is facing many, many issues due to COVID-19, including, I don't need to tell you because all of you directors have been living this, greatly reduced revenues due to decreased ridership during the pandemic. I really want to help the district navigate through the post-pandemic era of looking at how do we replace the reduction in toll, ferry, and bus revenue while making reduction in greenhouse gas emissions and climate change a top priority. I'm so honored to serve with all of you. I want to give a big shout out to all of the employees of the district as well, and thank you for all the work you do every day. And I want to thank all of you for the opportunity of a lifetime. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Thier, and thank you for joining us. Now that we have Director Thier on board, Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Thank you, and thank you for that. I'm going to start with Director Arnold.
Here.
Thank you. Director Conroy.
Here.
Director Garbarino.
Here.
Director Giudice.
Here.
Director Grosval.
I just want to say welcome to Director Thier. I knew her when she was active in San Francisco politics before moving to Marin. I'm here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Director Hernandez.
Here. Good morning, Director Thier, and welcome.
Thank you.
Director Maston.
Here.
Director Melgar.
Here.
Director Parr.
Present.
Director Rabbit.
Here.
Director Rodoni.
Present.
Director Snyder.
Present. Welcome aboard.
Director Stephanie.
Present.
Director Thier.
Here.
Second Vice President Hill.
Here.
First Vice President Cochran.
Here.
And President Theriault.
Here.
Great. Thank you. You have a quorum. I'm going to confirm staff really quickly. Is Dennis Mulligan?
Here.
Joe Wire?
Here.
Ava Barr Furbush?
Present.
Thank you. Kim Manolius?
Good morning.
Dave Rivera?
Good morning, President.
Mona Babauta?
Present.
Jim Swindler?
Present.
And Kelly Hopper?
Present.
Great. Thank you. That confirms staff on the line as well.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. I want to thank everyone for joining us this morning for our very first meeting of 2022. We appreciate your continued patience as we continue to conduct our business in this meeting. I will ask if board members have any comments and/or questions on agenda items. If there are questions, the Secretary or I will call on you accordingly. Following any discussion, we'll take the appropriate roll call vote. If you are not speaking, please mute your phones to minimize the noise on today's call. I've heard a little noise in the background already, so please mute your phones. And remember to unmute and identify yourself when you are speaking. Please follow along by referring to the page numbers located on the bottom right corner of your meeting packet. Director Maston, everybody can unmute now. Please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
All right, thank you. After me, pledge allegiance to the flag,
To the flag
of the United States of
United
America,
States of America, and to the
and to the
republic,
republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hurrah!
Thank you, Director Maston. And now everybody back on mute, please. Before we move on to public comment under item 4, Madam Secretary, do we have a notion of how many callers we have on the line today who might speak under public comment?
We have 9 speakers right now, so we can poll the public again, but at this time we have 9 speakers.
Okay, so we will assume that we can go under the standard 30-minute format with 2 minutes per comment. We've allotted 30 minutes public comments, and I'd like to ask each caller to limit their comments to 2 minutes or less so we may accommodate more speakers if necessary. Madam Secretary, please continue with public comment.
Thank you. We're going to move on to agenda item 4, which is public comment for any and all items on today's agenda. If you wish to speak to an item today and it's on the agenda, please speak to it now. Justine Bach is assisting today to moderate our public comment line. Justine, in a second, go ahead and introduce your first speaker.
Thank you, Madam Secretary and President Theriault. Our first speaker this morning is Manuel Gamboa. Mr. Gamboa.
Good morning.
Good morning. Go ahead.
I'm calling on behalf of my son, Kyle Gamboa, who tragically died September 20th by jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge. Since then, his mom and I have been visiting and talking with the directors and the staff there at the board meetings to see if there is something that you guys can do to prevent these type of deaths of people going there and jumping off the bridge. Well, since then, it's been about 9 years for us. You guys went and agreed to put a suicide deterrent. And with that, I just like to thank the staff and the directors and the contractors and all those who were involved in financing this project, and all the families before us that have lost a family member to this. You know, I looked at this as a tragedy because my son at the time was not diagnosed with any mental illness. He had no depression. He was not sad. So I believe this will help out for those people that are just having a bad day. Hopefully they can just go somewhere else and think about what they wanted to do, and this will get them the help that they need. And I know that's what some of the studies had came out with, as far as, you know, people reaching out to get help that never wanted to get help. But with that, I just wanted to wish everybody a Happy New Year, and we'll see you next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gamboa. Your comments have been important to me and to us, I know, over the years, and the work is progressing more slowly than we would like, but it is progressing. So thank you again. Madam Secretary, the next speaker, please.
You're welcome.
Our next speaker is Dave Rohde. Mr. Rohde? Dave Rohde?
President Thierol, board members, managers, and staff, good morning. My name is Dave Rohde. I'm with the Climate Reality Project. You've heard me expound on the myth of renewable diesel as clean energy time and time again over the last 2.5 years. From all appearances, it may seem as though I'm obsessed with the topic. Well, I am, and it's been a long road to finding all the research that damns biofuel as an actual clean energy solution, and we've talked about that numerous times. We presented this information to Senator Scott Wiener. His response has been, yeah, biofuel was supposed to be a bridge fuel, but CARB is a tough nut to crack. When we met with the California EPA, the directors said, yeah, there are a lot of really smart people at CARB and they know what they're doing. Finally, we made enough noise at CARB that we were invited to a workshop on California's energy infrastructure. We didn't talk about biofuel, but what I learned is even more startling. Our energy grid is not ready for full electrification of transportation, not by a long shot. When municipal managers at this workshop expressed a desire to transition to electric vehicles, they were told repeatedly, it's probably a good idea to bring your own energy, to invest in your own solar array and lots of batteries. No wonder CARB is still promoting biofuel. On the other hand, there's a lot of good news out of Sacramento. Governor Newsom's new budget includes $3.9 billion for electrification of ports and transit systems, $2 billion for clean energy, including investment into long-duration energy storage and offshore wind. The upshot of this is that the transit organizations like the Golden Gate Bridge District need to be proactive in the transition from biofuel-burning buses and ferries to electrification. You need to begin your own feasibility studies to address charging stations, clean energy sources, and the entire infrastructure to achieve net zero emissions. And you need to push the state agencies like CARB, CEC, and the CPUC. An added note, I'll be sending you the latest report in biofuel, which is even more damning. It makes a direct connection to its expanded use with global insecurity and deforestation. This report by 2 UC Berkeley professors will be included in this report that I send to Mr. Mulligan and the entire board, and I appreciate your patience in listening to this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rohde. Madam Secretary, the next speaker, please.
Our next speaker is Shane Weinstein. Shane, go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Okay. Good morning, Chair Terrio, fellow directors, and welcome to Mayor Thier. Shane Weinstein, President of ATU 1575. I called to give you a couple numbers here this morning, and I'm sorry if I'm being repetitive to some. The district and the ATU are about $165,000 apart from getting a deal. That's a difference between 3 and 4%. The district didn't bat an eye last month when choosing to spend $1.2 million annually for managers that at this time really aren't needed. That's 7% of bus operator pay. Now, directors, we've lost 60 operators since September of 2020, and today we gain our first back. Just recently, for the next class, the bridge processed 81 applications, 22 were invited to test, 12 showed up for the test, 6 passed and invited to the panel interview, and 4 people are in the next class, starting in February and ending in May or June. How does this operation continue? We're going to have a max of 5 people in 5 months. VTA is putting out classes of 20. If commute service returned by the bus leadership's own words, we could not staff it. Now, the drivers who are left, who are loyal to this agency, are taking on all of that work, and they're broken. 60 of 195 drivers have contracted COVID. I'm currently positive and got it from one of my members. This job is dangerous. It's taxing mentally and physically. My members are getting spit on and assaulted at a rate this place has never seen. So as we discuss value, this is the best 1% or $165,000 you will ever spend. Samtrans and VTA are signing multiple four-year contracts with $3,500 plus in appreciation bonuses. We need to be appreciated. I was told by the district that we can't give bus operators 4% because then the district would have to in turn give the coalition the same. And although I understand the logic, my members do not feel appreciated, and we believe this is highly disingenuous. So directors, please entertain the idea of how the small increase from 3 to 4% and what that would do for the operators. It may also help with retention. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Weinstein. I'm sorry, I didn't acknowledge Justine in this. Justine and Madam Secretary, would you bring the next speaker on, please?
Thank you, President Terrio. Our next speaker is David Pilpel. David, go ahead.
Great. Good morning, David Pilpel. So I hope that my comments yesterday were clear and helpful. Welcome to new member Mayor Thier. I found some very minor non-substantive edits for various minutes rather than taking up time here. I can share those with the district secretary afterwards, and hopefully they can be incorporated. Nothing at all of substance. And just finally, I read last night with sadness that Bruce Pettit passed away recently. I suggest an in memoriam for Bruce. He was a friend and a journalist, worked for the Bay Area Reporter, among other publications, and was probably first hired by Bob Ross, former director on this board and former board president. So that's my request. I apologize. I actually don't know the process for an in memoriam at the board, but I just wanted to suggest that to be added. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Pilpel. Madam Chair, Madam Secretary, could you comment on the process for adding someone to the memorial section at the end of the meeting?
It's really at your pleasure. If you like to, we can definitely do that when you go to do your adjournment. We can add Mr. Pettit to the list, and I can follow up with Mr. Pilpel on contact information.
Thank you. Let's do that then, please.
Okay.
Next public speaker, Ms. Bach and Madam Secretary.
Our next speaker is Marina Sacitano. Marina, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Thank you. President Terrio and directors, and a special welcome to Holly Thier. I ask for your support in ensuring the Labor Coalition gets a fair and just wage increase. Or wage increases. Our members have been working through the pandemic and they didn't have the ability to work from home. Over the course of our 26 meetings, we worked closely with the district in negotiations to reach an agreement, and we did settle on the medical plan. A major change which should have generated significant wage increases over the 3-year contract period. It was stated that the change would save the district about $8,000 per member per year. We have given the district a fair proposal based on a 3-year contract, taking into account the significant cost of inflation. We have been struggling during this COVID period to reach a final agreement, and we believe the district should agree to our proposal without bonuses, just pensionable wage increases. You know, this is a time that we know it's difficult for everybody, but you can't overlook the fact that our members have been working without wage increases. We have, as you know, got a wage increase of 2.5% for this whole contract period. So again, I look forward to trying to get this thing done by our next meeting, which will be Monday, and we ask for your support in making that happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Secretano. Madam Secretary and Ms. Bach, the next speaker, please.
Our next speaker is Francis Gleason. Mr. Gleason, go ahead.
Good morning, directors. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Director Theriot, congratulations on your being appointed president of the board. I'm looking forward to having you sitting there for the next couple of years. And I'd like to say good morning to the rest of the directors. I understand that directors, you show up for these meetings and it's kind of a once a month situation where you come to the board meeting, so you can't be up on everything. So I'd just like to point out that I wrote some letters to you, and I hope you can read these emails. And it's with regards to some of the statements that happened last board meeting in December last year, and it's all about the pensions. It was item 10A. It was kind of disheartening to see that, you know, in the graph and after the long presentation, 6 years of the employee contributions were not shown as contributions. They were shown as a zero for 2009 to 2015, which is millions of dollars. And I know the presentation went on, and it was trying to, you know, talk about saving money for the public pension, which is the bus driver pension, the Golden Gate Transit public pension. The savings that they were discussing in that long presentation didn't even amount to the amount of money that was disregarded as the employee contributions of like millions of dollars. And secondly, in that presentation, there was a comparison between the 4 pensions that the district has. Well, 2 of them were private pensions, and comparing a private pension with a public pension is similar to comparing salt water and fresh water. They both get you wet, but they're totally different. And the other public pension, the CalPERS pension, it was neglected that even though CalPERS has a mighty fund of like $495 billion, the Golden Gate Bridge District is just a little drip of that. And in fact, the Golden Gate Bridge District owes CalPERS $100 million. So they're comparable to the Golden Gate Transit pension because they both were neglected because the district didn't pay in the contributions for their employees for both those public pensions. Anyway, please look at those emails, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Gleason. Madam Secretary and Ms. Bach, the next speaker, please.
Our next speaker is Noah Griffin. Noah? If you star to unmute yourself if you've been muted.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can, Noah. Go ahead.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to welcome my colleague, Holly Fear. We're so proud of her over in the town of Tiburon. She's done a fantastic job on the town council, both as mayor and as a member, and I'm sure she'll be bringing visionary insight, knowledge, and hard work to completing her tenure there. She joins wonderful folks there: Bert Hill, Judy Arnold, Emily Conroy, Patty Garbarino, Dennis Rodoni, and Catherine Stephanie, whom I know, and Dennis Mulligan. The bridge has been something very important and dear to me, and having written the official song for the bridge, but I know that she will add a tremendous value, and we're lucky to have her there, and we're very proud of her. Thank you very much for the opportunity to welcome her.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin. Ms. next speaker, please.
Our next speaker is Jack Buckhorn. Jack, go ahead.
Good morning, directors. My name is Jack Buckhorn, Executive Director of the North Bay Labor Council. I've called in to congratulate President Theriault and new directors here on their positions with the Bridge District. And I also want to thank you guys for helping me on my daily aerobic routine. It helps me pass the time, and sometimes it keeps my heart rate in a really good place, but other times it gets it up into the anaerobic threshold. And this is one of those occasions. I still can't imagine why we haven't solved this contract with your coalition of unions. Inflation right now is running at over 5%. You guys know that. Should have solved this problem months ago, if not years ago, so you don't face this problem. And now we're 1% apart. And yeah, you're going to have to give it to the coalition unions because of a Me Too agreement, I'm sure. But it's time to do the right thing. So I would just ask all the directors to make sure this contract gets done and that we can bring some, I guess, settlement. We can finish this contract and we can move on with rebuilding the ridership. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Buckhorn. Madam Secretary and Ms. Bach, the next speaker, please.
Our next speaker is Clifford Waldeck. Clifford, go ahead.
Hi, good morning, directors. I'd like to congratulate my friend Holly Thier on her appointment to the board of directors. And also, because I'm on this call here, and I know the Bridge District has a lot on your plate. I've heard it from the last few speakers here, but I wanted to take this opportunity to encourage the district to begin consideration of the renewal of the number 4 bus. Not only it's a key means for many Marin commuters to get into San Francisco, it's also a way to get visitors from San Francisco into Southern Marin to support our businesses. I know we're still in the middle of the pandemic, and I know this isn't going to happen today or tomorrow, but it'd be great if we'd be able to shoot for a milestone, by mid-2022. Thank you very much, and you all have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mr. Walbeck. That is 9 speakers, Ms. Bach and Madam Secretary. Are there any additional speakers who've come on since then?
President Theriault, I would like to poll the room if you don't mind.
Please do.
We have had a few people who've joined. Okay, thank you so much. Is there anyone new?
Thank you, President. She's going to try and poll the speakers that were joined, I guess, possible speakers that joined after the start of the meeting and after the public comment went on. So just bear with us for one moment.
Okay, and we are where with regards to the 30 minutes, Madam Secretary?
We're doing fine on time. I think even if we had 3 more speakers, I think we'll be okay.
Okay, otherwise I would ask for the board's indulgence to accommodate the additional speakers.
Okay, thank you. We finished polling the public comment line and there are no further speakers.
Oh, very good. Okay. So thank you for everyone's participation. Thank you to the speakers. This concludes public comment for the items on today's agenda. Madam Secretary, please continue to the next item on the agenda.
Thank you. Item number 5 is to approve the consent calendar, including approval of the minutes from the committee and board meetings in December, as well as ratification of previous actions by the auditor controller. Consent calendar is located on pages 5 to 45 of your packet.
Thank you. Before we move along to a motion and a vote, are there any questions or corrections from board members on the consent calendar?
President Terrio?
Yes.
This is Director Thier. I am actually going to abstain and not be part of this vote as I was not on the board in December.
Thank you, Director Thier. That seems appropriate. Do any other directors have comments or questions? Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved, Director Giudice.
There's a motion and a second.
Second, Rabbit.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, please proceed to a roll call vote.
Thank you. We are starting with Director Arnold.
Aye.
Thank you. Director Conroy. Director Conroy?
Yes.
Thank you. Director Garbarino? Director Garbarino, I believe you're on mute.
No, I'm not on mute.
Oh, there you go.
Sorry, I had said yes. I apologize.
Thank you. Director Giudice?
Aye.
Director Grosboll?
Aye.
Director Hernandez? Director
Aye.
Hernandez? Thank you. Director Meston?
Aye.
Director Melgar? Is absent. Director Parr?
Aye.
Thank you. Director Rabbit?
Aye.
Director Rodoni?
Aye.
Director Snyder?
Aye.
Director Stephanie?
Aye.
Director Thayer will be abstaining. I'll go to Second Vice President Hill.
Aye.
First Vice President Cochran?
Yes.
Yes. And President Therio.
Yes.
Thank you. You have 15 ayes.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. That would mean the motion passes. Please move on to the next item.
Mr. President, this is Director Hernandez. May I interrupt for a point of order, please? I think it's a point of
Go
order.
ahead, please, Director Hernandez. Yes.
Thank you. I have to apologize and change my vote. I was not in attendance at the December 16th meetings or the December 17th meetings. Thank you. So I will
Madam
abstain.
Secretary, is it possible to accept the yes vote for the meetings at which she was in attendance and discount it from the ones in which she wasn't?
Okay, I can make sure. I will make sure to
Thank you.
note that. Thank you.
Thank you. I apologize for that. Thank you very much.
Director President Therio, this is Mirna Melgar. I'm so sorry, my call dropped off just when I was, it was my turn to vote, and I spoke a yes. So
Thank
sorry.
you. No problem. Thank you. Thank you, Director
We'll
Melgar.
record that after the fact as well. Thank you. With no objections.
Awesome. Thank you.
Right, so we weren't quite on to the next item yet, fortunately. Now, Madam Secretary, let's move on to the next item.
Okay, we're going to start with item number 6 now with the report of the general manager, and that staff report can be found on pages 47 to 58. And Dennis is here to present his report.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Good morning, Mr. President, members of the board, members of the public. My written report is before you. I do want to highlight a couple of items that are in the report and a few that are not in the report. I'll start with the public speaker, Mr. Walbeck, spoke about adding transit service to Southern Marin. I'm pleased to inform the board that yesterday I signed a lease on behalf of the district with AC Ventures, which is the property interest or owner in Tiburon for the Tiburon Landing. And the lease is for $1,957 per month with the annual CPI on May 1st. And it includes a 10-year term with options to continue. Plus, I also signed yesterday a bill of sale where the district will pay $1 to AC Ventures, and in return will take possession of the property there, which includes the float, the dolphins, the gangway, and the gate. The district first started operating commute service between Tiburon and San Francisco almost 5 years ago on March 6, 2017, when Blue and Gold, a private company, abandoned that service. About 2 years ago, they petitioned the California Public Utilities Commission to also abandon midday and weekend service connecting Tiburon and San Francisco. In the interest of keeping cars off the Golden Gate Bridge and providing transit service to Southern Marin, we're stepping into their shoes. With the execution of the lease yesterday, as well as the bill of sale, we'll be doing a joint press release this afternoon with the town of Tiburon, Blue and Gold, Tideline Marine, a private operator who will operate late-night water taxi service, and AC Ventures, the property owner down there, announcing that starting Monday, Golden Gate will be offering midday service and weekend service, and Blue and Gold's last trip out of Tiburon will be Sunday. So that's a significant change for us, and we're excited by it. We will be implementing that service on a demonstration or pilot basis to comply with the board rules and FTA rules, and we'll come back to the board in probably 6 to 9 months with an item to make that service permanent based on concluding a Title VI analysis. We'll probably do that in concert with the recent Angel Island service that we added between Angel Island and San Francisco. But I'm pleased to announce that we'll have an increase in transit service to Southern Marin with midday and weekend ferry service between Tiburon and San Francisco. Next thing I'd like to mention is continuing our prior efforts working with Marin County to help address the impacts to the community of the pandemic, and recognizing that there is a shortage of in the community of PCR testing sites. We've partnered with Marin County and Curative, a private vendor, to set up a walk-up COVID test site. It'll be a PCR test site, and that will open on Sunday. It'll operate Sunday through Thursdays, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. for an undetermined period of time until the need of the community is such that having that access to the testing is not necessary. So I wanted to make the board aware of that. With respect to the ongoing pandemic, it has affected our operations, and the Omicron surge has further exacerbated it. For the week of January 9th, travel in the Golden Gate corridor remains significantly down, and it's much lower than it was before the onset of the Omicron variant. Our bus ridership is down 73%, so we only carried 27% of our normal bus ridership. Ferry ridership was down 84%. We only carried 16% of our normal ferry ridership, and bridge traffic was down 27%. So unless folks are swimming across the strait between the North Bay and Marin in San Francisco, travel remains very depressed, which affects the need for our services, the size of our workforce, and our finances. Since travel is down in the corridor, and bridge tolls in particular is the principal funding source for us, the week of January 9th, our revenues from tolls and transit fares were down $1.2 million compared to the same week pre-pandemic. So that highlights the rapid spending down of our one-time federal COVID relief money. Fortunately, on Monday of this week, the Federal Transit Administration awarded the second tranche American Rescue Plan grant to the district. You may recall that previously MTC allocated the second tranche to us. It's $43.8 million. Of that, it's $38 million of new money, and that is a welcome shot in the arm for the Bridge District. You may recall at previous months how I talked about how that money was at risk because the Amalgamated Transit Union and the U.S. Department of Labor have challenged all transit grants from California transit agencies, alleging that the California Public Employees Pension Reform Act, or PEPRA, invalidates or runs amok of worker protection provisions in federal law known as 13C. There was a recent court action that stayed that action and precludes U.S. DOL from holding up grants. And so we were able to get this grant through in that window. And so that will allow us to have sufficient operating funds to get through the current fiscal year and hopefully next fiscal year with this one-time federal COVID relief money. However, there's still a cloud over any future FTA grants that we may pursue. For example, a new ferry boat, or the new bipartisan infrastructure law has a lot of money for greening transit fleets. It's not clear at this juncture whether the Amalgamated Transit Union and the USDOL actions will tie that up further. Yesterday, USDOL and ATU submitted to the U.S. State Court, District Court, United States District Court in Eastern District, various legal filings, cross motions, and briefs, and that the state will submit a reply on February 4th, and there will be a hearing on February 11th. Until that runs its course, all future federal grants that pass through the Federal Transit Administration are at risk, and that's vitally important since our capital program is funded primarily with other people's money, and on the transit side, it's from Federal Transit Administration. In my written report is an update on full-time employee separations. I believe last year, Director Groswell asked for some information. And so the key thing is the great resignation that's sweeping our country is something that we're not immune to. In calendar year 2021, 7% of our employees chose to leave the workforce. It's important to note that we had issued layoff notices, and so that may have triggered some employees to choose to leave before the layoff notices took effect. But for perspective, according to the U.S. Department of Labor, in just the month of November, 3% of all American workers quit. In the month of October, 2.8% of all American workers quit. And in the month of September, 3% of all American workers quit. So our 7% of all workers through the entire calendar year or 12-month period is certainly something that we wish had not happened, but it's certainly much less than what the national trend is. With respect to the public speakers, I would also like to thank Mr. Frank Gleason for his comments, because he was correct. We have updated our website, but last month there was an error in agenda item 10A. It was a lengthy item, and on page 6, in the middle half or bottom of the page, there was a table, and the staff report hasn't corrected, but the error was that it listed the employee pension contribution pre-March 1st, 2015 as 0%, when in fact the employees had been putting in 2% of their wages to the pension plan. So that has been corrected on our website. He did send an email, but I did want to expressly call that out for your attention. With respect to our employees, we had several retirements in the last month. One of the retirements is Ms. Ida Santiago. She left the district after 32 years and 11 months of service. During her career, she was honored twice as the Employee of the Month. She was originally born in the Philippines, raised in San Francisco, attended Lowell High School, the University of San Francisco, and City College of San Francisco. In her free time, she enjoys spending time with her family and friends. Also retiring on December 31st was Don Larabrew. Don is a mechanic in our bus division. He retired after 30 years and 1 month of service with the district. We wish him a long and happy retirement. In our ferry division, Mr. Colin McDermott, the Director of Ferry Operations, has retired. He joined the district as a casual deckhand in 1996 before promoting to a regular full-time vessel master in 1998, then to his current position in August of 2012 as the Director of Ferry Operations. We wish him a very long and happy retirement, and we thank him for his service. In the bus division, we had another retirement. This is Meredith Knott. She retired after 25 years and 2 months of service with the district. She worked as a schedule analyst, a very important role with the district in terms of designing our ferry service and making it streetable. Prior to the district, she worked for the U.S. government at the Oakland Army base. And of note, she was named the Employee of the Month in October of 2002. Those are the retirements that have occurred in the last 30 days. We also have several presentations or service awards, and we look forward to when we're meeting again in person where you can actually meet these employees. But I'm pleased to announce that we presented a 25-year service award, and we recognize Robert Gilardi, who's a bridge sergeant. He joined us 25 years ago on January 6, 2022 as a bridge service operator working on the roadway. I'd also like to announce a 20-year award to Mr. Frank McMurray. He's a lead deckhand in our ferry division, and some of the directors may be familiar with him because he sometimes comes and testifies to the board. We're very appreciative of his long service to the district and wish him many, many more years with us. Also celebrating 20 years of the service is Tino Melosi. He's a bridge sergeant. He joined the district as a roadway service operator on January 7th, 2002. In the bus division, we have a bus operator, Richard Zavaglia, who is celebrating 20 years as a bus operator. He also works as a trainer in the bus division. He joined us 20 years ago, and in his free time, he enjoys driving his 1967 Mustang convertible over the Golden Gate Bridge with the top down, while spending time with his 2-year-old granddaughter. and a whole host of other activities with his family. For the Employee of the Month for January 2022, the Employee of the Month Committee, which is made up of our employees, reviewed the applications that have been submitted by colleagues. And they selected a payroll analyst, Anna Arroyo. You may have read that Kronos, a global company that provides timekeeping services, had a meltdown, or basically a global shutdown due to a ransomware attack. We used them to get payroll out. So our payroll team needed to creatively come up with ways to fill the gap. And Anna is a very valued and essential employee. The payroll team brainstormed alternate ways to get things done. Anna played a key role in making sure that all of our employees have gotten paid these past few weeks, subsequent to that December 9th takedown of Kronos. The Bridge District has 25 collective bargaining agreements plus non-represented employees, so we have 26 different sets of payroll rules that have to be navigated. And when your payroll system goes down, there's a tremendous challenge making sure that everyone gets paid, and our hats off to her. Anna was born in San Francisco. She attended Mission High School. She's been a resident of Novato since 2016, where she lives with her husband, and they have 2 children. She enjoys listening to audiobooks on history, fiction, and autobiographies, as well as listening to the 80s, 90s, and R&B music, her oldies and goodies. So my hat's off to her and the amazing effort that she and the entire team made making sure our employees got paid. With that, I'll stop, and I'm available to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, General Manager Mulligan. Ms. Arroyo had about as key a role as one can imagine. Are there any questions for the General Manager on his report?
Mr. President, this is Director Hernandez.
Yes, Director Hernandez, please proceed.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dennis, for your report. You appreciate you responding to the request of the board with information as to the workforce. 7% of our workforce left the district calendar year 2021. And that compares to a different statistic. You said 8.2% of workers left their employment nationally during the same time period. Was that correct?
No, 8% was almost 9%. 8.8% was just in 3 months of last year. So the nationwide trend is significantly higher. But that having been said, we have great employees. We would prefer not to lose any of them, and so we are reviewing the data and seeing if there's changes we need to make in certain areas in the district. But I think one thing that may have triggered some people to choose to leave was the layoff notices that we issued. We had some employees that started pursuing other jobs because they had received a layoff notice, and then they followed through on it, and so they're no longer with us. We have been contacted by 2 of those who do wish to come back, and we're taking steps to bring them on board.
Well, that's good news, and I'm glad that you're doing some a deeper dive into the reasons behind why we lost the individuals from our workforce that we did. I seem to remember us asking for that information at the same time that we asked for the basic numbers. But I look forward to hearing what you find in a future report. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Director Hernandez. As I'll be honest, in coming months, we have 2 employee groups where we feel that our wages are problematic and need to be increased. And so we will be coming back to you, and we're continuing the dive. We try to pay about the mid-range of the broader community for all of our classifications. And it does appear we do have 2 classifications where we may be low, and that may have contributed to some of the employees that left. And so we'll be bringing information to you about that in future months. So thank you.
All right,
thank you. Dennis, sorry, follow-up question, Mr. President?
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you. Dennis, can you identify those 2 groups that you referred to?
Yes, security and engineering.
Thank you.
So
Thank you,
we're gathering additional data on those, and we'll probably be bringing something to the board in the next couple of months.
Thank you. Thank you again.
Okay. So are there any other directors with questions for General Manager Mulligan? Hearing none. Thank you, Mr. Mulligan. Madam Secretary, the next item, please.
Thank you. Item 6B is the report of the attorney. And the staff report can be found on page 59. We have Kim Manolius on the line to present this report. Kim, go ahead with your report.
Thanks, Amaret. Good morning, everybody. My written report is before you, as Amaret said. I'm happy to take any questions. And also, we have a closed session listed on the agenda, which we will not have. So that will not occur at the end of the meeting. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mr. Manolius. Any questions on the attorney's report? Hearing none, Madam Secretary, the next item.
We're going to move on to item 6C, which is the report of the chief engineer. That report can be found on page 7 of the Building and Operating Committee meeting packet. And Ava Bauer-Furbush is here to present her report. Ms. Bauer-Furbush, please proceed.
Thank you, Amaret. My written report is before you, and I would like to mention...
Oh, that's fine. They're not talking. Part 11.
There's someone please mute. There's lots of background noise. Please go ahead, Madam Bauer-Furbush.
Thank you. My written report is before you, and I would like to bring to your attention a couple items. First of all, the progress on the suicide deterrent project. The contractor is working on installation of so-called border cables that will support the net fabric, and this is on the west side of the North Approach Viaduct. We project that they may start installation of the net fabric itself in about 2 weeks, if everything is going as planned. Furthermore, the contractor is also working on fabrication of a special apparatus that will be used for installation of the net on the suspension bridge. They call it a spooler. So sometime when we are closer to realizing the final details of this apparatus, I will present a visual, probably some kind of a rendering, just for your information. Also, there is a continuation of fabrication of the net at Carl Stoll facility near Chicago. They are about 77% complete. And also, they continue shipments of the net, fabricated net, to the contractor's yard in Richmond. So with this, I would also want to inform the board that my staff is working diligently on preparing the documents for several projects that will be advertised for construction in next 3 months. This includes the Santa Rosa bus employee and bus parking rehabilitation. There we are finalizing the documents for toll entry. Also, my staff is working on finalizing the documents for inspection, cleanup, and rehabilitation of the fuel system in Luxor. And also, we are working on the plans for dredging of the Luxor Channel. And for this project, the consultant did survey, and we found out that the deposits that have to be dredged are almost double in volume. So this project incurs we will need more budget to complete the dredging. And finally, we also finalizing plans for the San Rafael parking employee rehabilitation and solar panel installation. So with this, I will be happy to answer any questions that board members may have for me.
Thank you, Ms. Bauer-Furbush. I would note to anyone in the public who's listening that Ms. Bauer-Furbush produces monthly or supplements monthly a very detailed report on the activities of the office that goes up in the agenda items for the Building and Operating Committee available online. So if you want to take time and peruse that, it can be very rewarding. I enjoy it. Are there any questions from the directors on the engineer's report? Hearing none. Thank you, Ms. Bauer-Furbush. Madam Secretary, on with the agenda.
Thank you. We're going to move on to item 8 since there's no other reports under item 7. Item 8A is a report of the Transportation Committee of Thursday, January 27th, and that summary of recommendations for this meeting can be found on page 63 of your packet.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Colleagues, items 8A, 8B, and 8C before us today were discussed in detail at yesterday's Transportation, Building and Operating, and Finance Auditing Committee meetings. And again, to anyone in the public who would like to hear those detailed discussions for future items, I would suggest your attendance at those meetings. So before being presented to the full board for action, that occurred, I would like to congratulate and express gratitude to the Marin Transit and district staffs for negotiating a multi-year agreement for paratransit bus services. And on that, Chair Arnold, please begin your committee's report to the board.
Thank you, President Theriault. The Transportation Committee met yesterday and is recommending authorization of board agenda item number 8.A.1 to approve execution of a multi-year agreement with the Marin County Transit District for provision of the district's American with Disabilities Act regional paratransit services for a cost not to exceed $2 million effective February 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2025 for a 3-year and 5-month base contract term, and authorize the general manager to take all related actions to effectuate the terms of the new agreement, including the discretion to exercise 3 one-year options for extension through June 30th, 2028, as detailed in the staff report, and I so move.
Thank you, Chair Arnold, for your statement and your motion. Is there a second?
This is Parr. I'll second it.
Thank you, Director Parr. Are there questions, comments, or concerns from board members on item 8A1? I don't hear any, so Madam Secretary, another roll call vote, please.
Thank you. We're voting on item 8A1 with a first and a second. I'll start with Director Arnold.
Aye.
Aye. Director Conroy. Director Conroy?
So, I'm sorry, aye.
No problem. Thank you. Aye. Director Garbarino.
Aye.
Director Giudice.
Yes.
Director Grosball.
Aye.
Director Hernandez.
Aye.
Director Maston.
Aye.
Director Melgar.
Aye.
Director Parr.
Aye.
Director Rabbit.
Aye.
Director Rodoni.
Aye.
Director Snyder.
Aye.
Director Stephanie.
Aye.
Director Thier.
Aye.
Second Vice President Hill.
Yes.
First Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
And President Theriault.
Yes.
You have 17 ayes.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. The item's adopted. Chair Arnold, do you have anything further to report?
Mr. President, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Chair Arnold. Madam Secretary, on to the next item.
Item 8B is the report of the Building and Operating Committee meeting of Thursday, January 27th, and that summary of recommendations can be found on page 65.
Thank you, Chair Garbarino. Welcome to your first report as Chair of the Building and Operating Committee. Please begin it.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your confidence in me. The Building and Operating Committee met yesterday and is recommending authorization of board agenda item number 8B1 to approve award of contract number 2021-F066 on-call inspection and service of the inflatable buoyant apparatus and emergency evacuation system to Avalon RAS Sales and Service Incorporated of Wilmington, California, to provide service and inspection of vessel inflatable buoyant apparatus and marine evacuation slides for a 3-year term with 2 additional 1-year options to be exercised at the general manager's discretion for a total amount of $597,600 $614 over the entire term of the contract, including both option terms as detailed in the staff report, and I so move.
Thank you, Chair Garbarino. So there's a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Director Maston.
Couple of possibilities there, Madam Secretary.
I'll start
Are
that
there, okay. Are there questions, comments, or concerns from board members on item 8B1? Hearing none again, Madam Secretary, another roll call vote, please.
Thank you. We have a first and a second on 8B1, and I'll start with Director Arnold again. Director Arnold, it looks like she's fallen off our call. Director Conroy.
Aye.
Thank you. Director Garbarino.
Aye.
Director Giudice.
Yes.
Director Grosboll.
Aye.
Director Hernandez.
Aye.
Director Maston.
Aye.
Director Melgar.
Aye.
Director Parr.
Aye.
Director Rabbit.
Aye.
Director Rodoni.
Aye.
Director Snyder.
Aye.
Director Stephanie.
Aye.
Director Thier.
Aye.
Second Vice President Hill.
Yes.
First Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
And President Terrio.
Yes,
Thank you. 16 ayes.
that is clearly an adoption of the item. Chair Garbarino, do you have anything more to report?
Mr. President, that concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Chair Garbarino. Madam Secretary, please move along to the next item on the agenda.
The next item is item 8C, which is the report of the Finance Auditing Committee, which is also from yesterday, Thursday, January 27th. And that summary of recommendation is on where this meeting can be found on page 67 of the packet.
So Chair Rabbit, your turn to begin your committee's report to the board.
Thank you, President Serio. The Finance Auditing Committee met yesterday and is recommending authorization of board agenda item number 8C1 to approve award of sole source contract number 2021-D-70 Genfair GFI software system upgrade to Genfair of Elk Grove Village, Illinois, in the amount of $515,143 for implementation of a software and hardware upgrade, installation and staff training, a contract contingency, and costs for ongoing support and maintenance of the GFI system software and Genfair hardware for a 3-year term and 2 optional 1-year terms, exercisable at the discretion of the general manager. Approve a budget increase of fiscal year 21-22 district division capital budget in the amount of $348,378 for a total project cost of $593,378 relative to capital project number 1960 Fairbox system upgrade, and authorize the general manager or his designee to approve additional amendments to the contract to allow for future years' annual recurring maintenance and support as detailed in the staff report, and I so move.
Thank you, Chair Rabbit. Chair Rabbit has moved the item. Is there a second?
Second, Director Giudice.
There we go. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns from board members on item 8C1? I don't hear any. Madam Secretary, a roll call vote, please.
Thank you. We have a first and a second for item 8C1, and I'll start with Director Arnold, who's absent. Director Conroy. Director Conroy. Director Conroy is absent. Director Garbarino.
Aye.
Thank you. Director Giudice.
Yes.
Director Grosboll.
Yes.
Director Hernandez.
Aye.
Director Maston.
Aye.
Director Melgar. Director Melgar is absent. Director Parr.
Aye.
Aye. Actually, I just saw Director Melgar come back. Director Melgar, are you there? We're voting on item 8C1.
Aye. Sorry about that.
No problem. Thank you. Director Rabbit,
Aye.
Director Rodoni,
Aye.
Director Snyder,
Aye.
Director Stephanie,
Aye.
Director Thier,
Aye.
Second Vice President Hill,
Yes.
First Vice President Cochran,
Yes.
and President Thirio.
Yes.
Thank you. You have 15 ayes.
Hi, Director
And
Conroy's
again?
on the line.
Oh.
I'm an aye.
Thank you, Director Conrad.
No.
We have 16 ayes.
We have 16 ayes, right under the wire.
Right.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. That means this item is adopted. Chair Rabbit, anything more to report?
Mr. President, that concludes my report. I will say this, that I apologize. I'm going to drop off the call and join Congressman Huffman's call on infrastructure, go to bat for the bridge in the North Bay. So I thank you for your indulgence.
Get us some stuff, Director Rabbit.
That's the idea.
Yeah. Madam Secretary, please move along to the next item on the agenda.
Thank you, President Theriault. There are no addresses to the board under agenda item number 9, so we're going to move on to agenda item number 10, which is the special order of business. We're going to start with agenda item 10A, which is an informational report on the 2020 California Supreme Court ruling on vested rights under pension plans. Staff report begins on page 69 of your packet, and Dennis is going to introduce this report. Dennis, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Secretary, Mr. President, members of the board, members of the public. The item before you today is informational in nature. The genesis of this item is that many months ago, the board heard from some of our bus operators concerns about the financial solvency of their pension plan, so a request was made for information. So this is the third month now that we are presenting information. The first month we talked about all the different pension plans that are available to our employees. There's actually 4 of them, and we gave details on their financial solvencies, contribution rates, and benefits. Then last month, we did a presentation on the ATU pension plan, specifically its own actuarial analysis that shows what it would take to rectify the plan, what changes need to be made. So this month, you'll hear from Liz Mason from Hanson Bridget, who's an attorney specializing in pension plans, and she'll talk about something called the California Rule. You may have heard people speak saying how the California Rule prohibits pension plans from making changes that affect current plan participants. And there's some questions about the California Rule. Fortunately, last summer, on July 30th, the California State Supreme Court made a ruling that offers clear direction on what is and is not allowed. So with that, I'll turn it over to Liz Mason to walk you through this item.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Secretary, Mr. President, and directors. As Mr. Mulligan said, this report is informational only, and it's really another follow-up to the reports that we provided to the board at the meetings last November and December about the district's pension plans, and in particular, the ATU pension plan. At those meetings last year, we discussed that there are a number of benefit features of the ATU plan that are unique and that don't occur in the other district pension plans. And some of those features have a negative effect on the plan's funding status. Questions came up about whether the retirement board could make changes to those plan features to try to address the plan's financial problems, and how those changes would be viewed under the California Vested Rights Rule about changing pension benefits for current employees. The California Vested Rights Rule is a legal principle that arises under the Contract Clause of the Constitution, which prohibits laws that result in the substantial impairment of contracts, including employment contracts. Courts have held that under the California Rule, an employment contract usually includes the pension plan terms that were in effect when an employee was hired. So the Vested Rights Rule has been applied by courts in reviewing whether changes to pension benefits for current employees would result in an unconstitutional impairment of their employment contract. The Acera case, which was decided by the California Supreme Court in July of 2020, involved the Public Employee Pension Reform Act, or PEPRA, and changes that PEPRA made to the definition of compensation in the County Employees Retirement Law, or CERL. Under PEPRA, there were some pay items that became excluded from the definition of compensation in the CERL for the purpose of determining county employees' retirement benefits, and those changes applied both to newly hired and to current employees. The Acera lawsuit challenged the application of the CERL's new definition of compensation to current employees. In the Acera decision, the court went through the long history of the California Vested Rights Rule. In several cases over the years, the courts have developed a standard where a change to pension benefits for current employees will be upheld if it's made for the purpose of keeping a pension plan flexible and at the same time maintaining the integrity of the plan. Courts have also reviewed whether the change is reasonable, meaning it bears some material relation to the theory of a pension plan and the plan's successful operation. In the past, courts have held that when changes are made to a pension plan that result in a disadvantage for current employees, those changes should be offset by a comparable new advantage. The Acera Court clarified that there is no requirement to provide a comparable new advantage in every situation. As explained in the decision, the court had already established in earlier cases that employees don't have a right to any fixed or definite benefits, but only to a, quote, substantial or reasonable pension. The court said this means that there's no inconsistency in holding that an employee has a vested right to a pension, but that the amounts, terms, and conditions of the benefits can be altered. Many of the earlier cases cited in the Acera decision involve the scope of allowable changes to pension benefits for current employees. And putting all of these together in the Acera case, the court said there's a three-part test for determining whether changes to a pension plan are constitutional. First, the court has to decide whether the change resulted in an economic disadvantage, and if so, whether it was offset by a comparable new advantage. If it's the case that there was an economic disadvantage, the second question is whether the purpose of the change is sufficient to justify any impairment. The court said a change is constitutional if it bears some material relation to the theory of a pension plan and its successful operation, and these include changes that relate to the operation of the plan and are intended to either improve its functioning or adjust to changing conditions. Then the third question, assuming that the purpose of the change is a permissible one, is whether offsetting the change with a comparable new advantage would undermine or be inconsistent with that purpose. The court applied this three-part test to the changes made to the definition of compensation in the SERL under PEPRA and upheld those changes. The court said that the changes were made to close loopholes and end abusive practices, including pension spiking, which is a permissible purpose, and that providing a comparable advantage would undermine that purpose. The Acera decision provides some clarity about the types of changes that can be made to maintain the long-term financial stability of a pension plan, which the court confirmed would be a permissible purpose. As we discussed at the November and December board meetings last year, the Retirement Board is authorized under the terms of the ATU plan to make certain changes to the benefits provided under the plan. The Acera decision provides support for making changes to some of the ATU plan features that we've talked about, like increasing the early retirement age and reducing benefits to account for early retirement, and eliminating the subsidized spousal benefit. Under the Acera test, those benefit changes would not need to include a new comparable advantage if that would undermine or be inconsistent with a permissible purpose, like improving and maintaining the plan's financial stability. That concludes my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
That was the expression I was looking for. Thank you, Ms. Mason, for this report. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns from board members related to this item?
I had one question. This is Director Snyder.
Please go ahead, Director Snyder.
So I know this deals with vested rights. And is there anything in the research or the questions we asked around obligations? Because I know under, like with CalPERS, if there's a shortfall, they have to assess or they have the power to assess the different entities, the cities, the counties that participate. And under a private plan, you have the PGBC that backs any shortfalls. And I still trying to wrap my head around who is responsible in this case. This was once a private plan, now it's a public plan. Is there anything in your research that could speak to that question?
Well, this plan is not guaranteed, or the benefits under this plan are not guaranteed by the PBGC, as you say, and it's not part of the CalPERS system, so there's no sort of statewide rules for shoring up that pension plan that would apply either.
So it's important that the trustees take, this is Dennis, appropriate action to make sure the plan is solvent. And that's why the Acera ruling is so important, because it removes the cloud over whether or not the plan trustees can make changes that affect existing plan participants. It indicates they can, particularly if it removes something that is unfair or is a subsidy. And, you know, the district is committed to working with the ATU and the trustees to address the shortfall. But to be precise with your question, there is no legal backstop. There's no one that's tasked with that, other than the trustees, who have a fiduciary obligation to make sure the plan is solvent.
Exactly. And under, you know, if this were a private plan that were subject to ERISA, there would be sort of a legal framework for how the trustees would address the funding status, and they would, certain actions that would need to be taken to improve the funding status to the statutory thresholds. But because it's a private plan, there is no legal framework. So it's just sort of the general fiduciary duties that the board has to ensure the financial stability of the plan.
But the trust board could choose to follow that framework for ERISA plans as they proceed, and that would certainly be an appropriate best practice.
Definitely. Those are, you know, it would be reasonable, and actually because the standards for the fiduciary duties that apply to the retirement board under the California Constitution are identical to the fiduciary rules under ERISA, oftentimes public retirement boards in California follow ERISA procedures as best practices.
I appreciate that. And that's just an interesting conundrum that there's the obligation, but there's not the legal framework to kind of move on it. You know, as you know, on private sector you have something, and CalPERS you have something. So appreciate the comments.
Thank you, Director Snyder. And for those who don't know, I've appointed Director Snyder to the open seat on the pension trust trustees board. And so his questions are well understood and in order, and I promise that I will have a conversation with him myself about this at some point in the not too distant future. So are there any other questions from or comments from board members concerning Ms. Mason's report?
Hi, this is Director Thier. I actually had a question, and I apologize if I should already know this, but on these two proposed ideas that you have, does ATU have a position on these items?
So if you want to talk about negotiations, I can brief you offline regarding negotiations.
Okay.
As a general practice, we don't negotiate in public, but we have talked to the ATU, and we have some items that there's TAs on or tentative agreements, and there's some items where there's not, as it pertains to the pension.
Okay, great. And then another question for the attorney, if I may, President Theriault and General Manager Mulligan. Have these legal cases been challenged yet that you're referring to? I think it's very difficult to take away existing benefits, and I'm just curious what the litigation shows.
Well, this Acera decision was decided by the California Supreme Court, so there's really nowhere left to challenge it. This plan, because it's a governmental plan, it's not subject to federal law governing, you know, ERISA plans or other types of pension plans. It's subject to California law. So the California Supreme Court is sort of the final arbiter on the vested rights rule and how that would apply to this plan, which is, you know, the good thing about the decision is it did sort of provide some clarity. In the past, there were some cases that were inconsistent about whether or not a new comparable advantage had to be provided when changes were made for current employees. And this case clarifies that that's not the case in every situation.
Yes, I understand that. Often, I think that the interpretation of the Supreme Court is what court decision is normally what gets litigated. So I was curious about that aspect of it, whether it has been litigated in any cases in a pension plan comparable to ATU's?
It has been litigated. I would suggest that if you're interested, Director Tier, that we can schedule a little time for you to sit down with Liz Mason to walk through some of the history of litigation that led to the state Supreme Court ruling. It did deal with public sector pension plans, and it did deal specifically with the question about whether or not you could make changes that affect existing employees, and it clarified under what circumstances you could and that it would be appropriate. And so if you're interested in a deeper dive, perhaps we can schedule a time with you and Liz to talk.
Yes, that would be fantastic. I did have one follow-up comment, I guess. I don't know if we're making comments on this, but one of the things I will say is that I know how much the district does value its employees. I know this is not, a proposal on the table, or maybe it is, but employee retention is really difficult right now for all agencies, especially for bus drivers. I know I'm on in Tiburon we have the Yellow Bus JPA, where we run a small bus service, and we have had to do a lot of things to get drivers and to keep drivers, and I just would be very concerned about how changing an existing pension would not really help that cause, and I just wanted to make that statement, and I'm happy to meet with you to get up to speed on the negotiations, and also to meet with the attorney to get up to speed on this specific Supreme Court cases. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Director Tier. Just to clarify, the Bridge District does not control the plan benefits. The ATU bus drivers have a pension plan that's controlled by a separate board of trustees, and those board of trustees establish the benefit structure. The district and the ATU just negotiate on contributions. There are times where the trustees have made changes in benefits absent conversations with the district, and there's times more recently where they've negotiated some things at the table, even though they're not obligated to. And so when you sit down with Liz Mason, I think it'll be quite instructive for you to understand the framework of this rather unique plan.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Director Thier. Are there any other directors with comments or questions for Ms. Mason? Hearing none. Madam Secretary, this was an informational item, so no vote is required. Madam Secretary, let's move along to the next item on the agenda then.
Okay, we're going to move on to item 10B, and that's a recurring item now on the agenda relative to conducting remote committee meetings and board meetings. The staff is recommending the board adopt a resolution to allow us to continue these remote meetings, but every 30 days we need to adopt these findings in accordance with Assembly Bill 361 that proclaim the state emergency continues to impact the ability for this board to meet safely in person. A brief staff reports on page 71 of the packet, and I respectfully request the board's approval on this item with the understanding that the board will consider it again at its next meeting in February.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Are there any board members with questions or comments on item 10B?
No, this is Patty. I so move.
Well, there is a motion then, and a second, I hear, to continue conducting remote meetings, to adopt a resolution to permit us to continue conducting remote meetings, if that's correct, Madam Secretary.
That's correct.
Then let's please do a roll call vote.
Thank you. We're voting on item 10B, and I have a first and second, starting with Director Arnold. Is absent. Director Conroy is also off the line again. Director Garbarino.
Aye.
Director Giudice.
Yes.
Thank you. Director Grossbull is no longer on the line. Director Hernandez.
Aye.
Thank you. Director Mastin.
Aye.
Director Melgar.
Aye.
Director Parr. Director Parr?
I'm sorry, I said aye. Must have hit
Director
the wrong
Rabbit.
button.
No problem. Director Rabbit. is no longer on the line. Director Rodoni.
Aye.
Director Snyder.
Aye.
Director Stephanie.
Aye.
Director Thier.
Aye.
Second Vice President Hill.
Yes.
First Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
And President Theriault.
Yes.
Thank you. You have 13 ayes.
13 ayes is enough. The motion is adopted. Madam Secretary, the next item on the agenda, please.
The next item is item 10C, which is also a recurring item on the agenda, and that's the discussion and possible action to terminate the suspension of board procedural rules and policies for COVID-19 related emergency actions. Mr. Mulligan's brief staff report is on page 73, and he is on the line to answer any questions that directors may have.
Are there any board members with questions or comments on this item? Hearing none, unless there are board members who object to it, I would look for a motion to continue. Okay. I was going to state a motion and tell you to agree to consider to continue this item until a special order of business at our next regular meeting. Is that correct, Director Giudice?
Correct, and sorry for chiming in a little bit early there, sir.
That's fine. Is there a second?
I'll second it. Cochran.
And there was a second. Okay. Madam Secretary, that means another roll call vote.
Thank you. We'll have a first and a second on item 10C, and I'll start with Director Arnold, who's not on the line. Director Conroy is also not on the line. Director Garbarino.
Aye.
Aye. Director Giudice.
Yes.
Director Grosbol. Director Grosbol.
Yes.
Thank you. Director Hernandez.
Aye.
Director Maston.
Aye.
Director Melgar.
Aye.
Director Parr.
Aye.
Director Rabbit is off the line. Director Rodoni.
Aye.
Thank you. Director Snyder.
Aye.
Director Stephanie.
Aye.
Director Thier.
Aye.
Second Vice President Hill.
Yes.
First Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
And President Theriault.
Yes.
Thank you. You have 14 ayes.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. That means the motion passes. And let us hope that we don't have to do this too many more times. Madam Secretary, please continue with the next item on the agenda.
Thank you. Item 10D is to ratify appointments by the board president to represent the district on other boards. This brief report can be found on page 75 of your packet. And President Theriault, I'm going to turn it back to you so you can introduce your motion.
Thank you. As I mentioned earlier, I've appointed Chris Snyder to the Amalgamated Transit Health and Welfare Trust and Retirement Board for a term from January 28th, 2022 to January 31st, 2023. That does require the approval of the board. And so I would ask for a motion to that effect.
Director Cochran.
So moved, Mr. President.
Got it.
We can take one of those as a motion, one of those as a second, Madam Secretary.
You got it. And I know exactly who was who. Thank you.
Very good. So are there any questions, comments, or concerns? And I know Director Snyder may now have concerns from board members on item 10D.
Well.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like at the beginning if it's a blessing or what I got myself into. I'm looking forward to.
That's all you get to say.
I'm really looking forward to serving and doing whatever I can to help. And I'm looking forward to your wisdom, President Theriault, and more conversation.
You're in bad shape then. So, all right, Madam Secretary, please a roll call vote.
Thank you. We're voting on item 10D with a first and second. I'm going to start with Director Arnold again, who's absent. Director Conroy is absent. Director Garbarino.
Aye.
Director Giudice.
Yes.
Director Grosbol.
Yes, with a message of good luck.
Thank you. Director Hernandez.
Aye.
Director Maston.
Aye.
Director Melgar.
Aye.
Director Parr.
Aye.
Director Rabbit is no longer on the line. Director Rodoni.
Aye.
Director Snyder. Do you want to abstain on this one?
I'll abstain.
Thank you. Director Stephanie.
Aye.
Thank you. Director Thier.
Aye, and congratulations.
Second Vice President Hill.
Yes.
First Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
And President Theriault.
Yes.
Thank you. You have 13 ayes and 1 abstention.
So that means the motion passes. Congratulations and condolences to Director Snyder. We do not have a closed session, as Attorney Manolius has remarked earlier. Moving along then. We have no new business. Item number 13 is communications, which was revised and sent to board members. We have reached the end of the agenda then, and there are no further items to be presented to the board. Thank you to everyone who put up with me today for today's meeting. May I have a motion? May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. So moved, Mr. President.
And there's a second.
Yeah.
And a moment to hear any objections. Hearing none. Madam Secretary, did you get Mr. Pettit's first name? I'm afraid I didn't. From Mr. Pilpel?
Bruce Pettit.
Thank you.
Bruce
Pettit.
Yeah, Bruce Pettit.
He's a friend of mine, so I know him well.
Okay, thank you. And I'm sorry for having missed that. So here, let's then adjourn today's meeting in memory of Bruce Orcutt, retired Senior Business Information Systems Engineer, Ray Schlesinger, retired bridge electrician, Thomas Nolan Morgan Jr., father of Administrative Assistant Thomas Morgan, Carolyn Dong, friend of our district secretary, Michelle Alyssa Go, who was killed when she was pushed in front of a Times Square subway train in New York on January 15th, and Mr. Bruce Pettit. Please join me in a moment of silence. This concludes the meeting of the Board of Directors. The time is 11:34 a.m. Thank you, everybody.